You're listening to the Multiverse Fan Cast, proud member of the Misfit Faction Media Network.
All right then, on with the show.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Multiverse Fan Cast. If you're listening to us on the go, you can find us on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, and basically anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can also find us at our website, themisfitfaction.com. There you'll find links to all of our content, including articles, podcast episodes, little tidbits about us, and even fun photos for those of you guys who really care about what we look like. As always, I'm one of your hosts, Paul. With me tonight is Ronnie. Ronnie, how are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. And we got Rob. Rob, how are you tonight?
I'm awesome. I'm happy to be here with my two heroes who just rescued me from a car that died. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
What if Rob's car didn't die?
Immediately. I was waiting to see who was going to do the first what if punch. All right, challenge for all the listeners. Every time we say what if and add a scenario, take a drink. Unless you're driving, please don't do that. Yeah, don't drink and drive.
Drinking and driving.
Honk your horn.
Or we don't also condone underage drinking.
Tell everybody about our podcast. But anyway, so we are here tonight. We are talking finally Marvel's What If. It just ended this past week. We had the season finale. There is no news whether or not it's going to be getting a second season at this time.
There's rumors of it, and they're even talking about one episode being an Iron Man Gamora episode, which we got a glimpse
we're
at.
going to discuss also. Yeah. They did leave a little bit of a mid-season or a mid-credit sting at the end.
Yep.
So it was the only one in the episodes. We're going to break it all down. We're going to talk characters. We're going to talk what worked, what didn't work, a little of the history of the comics, what if. But this is also your official spoiler warning. This will be a full spoiler-based episode. So if you haven't seen what if you did? And then listen to this podcast.
Drink.
Yeah, take a drink. But before we jump into it, this is also going to be a fast-paced episode because we are oddly excited, and also it's Comic-Con weekend. We don't want to be away from Facebook and IGN and YouTube for too long because who knows what's going to pop.
What will crop up.
Yeah, I'm more excited for DC Fandom, I'll be honest, because when they did DC Fandom last year, they also released every trailer.
Yeah, we were talking off air just before we started about how this coming weekend, by the time you're listening to this, Comic-Con will have been over and there will probably be a lot of big news. So our next episode is probably going to be Comic-Con based, or will be, I should say.
Which was our typical practice. We always did a Comic-Con episode.
There's so much.
Yeah, and then following that, just so you guys have an idea of our schedule, we're going to do a full episode on DC Fandom and what we're excited about. Because it's not just about what comes out of Comic-Con, it's also what we're excited about and what we're looking forward to in the future. And then we'll be doing a Titan / Young Justice type episode with the end of season 3 of Titans. And then I think Eternals is right after that. So got a couple of weeks
got a
of
packed month.
Yeah. So and then probably maybe like it as character study at the end of that, just to round things out a little bit. But before we do that, we're going to jump into some news. I believe Rob, you have a couple of news pieces.
I got a couple of quick things. First of all, the big news this week seems to be that Agatha Harkness is going to be getting her own spin-off show from WandaVision.
Apparently, Monica Rambeau too.
Oh,
yeah, they are both rumored right now.
As Kathryn Hahn is one of my favorite actresses out there, not just in the Marvel universe but overall. I'm very excited about this.
She's one of those actresses that just kind of exploded out of nowhere. And like she's been around forever.
She has. I've seen her in a lot of things, and she's reliable in everything she does.
And
but
she's also one of those. I know her. Where do I know her from?
It's
hard.
That person, that actress.
Well,
it
was Agatha all along.
It was Agatha all along.
That better be the name of it. Like it has to be Agatha all along. But
Lock and Key season 2 trailer dropped. I don't know if you guys are fans of the show.
We
or the
are,
graphic
yes.
novel.
Yes.
Oh, you are. Okay.
Producer Melanie and I watched the entire first season. We binge watched it really hard. I know there are differences from the comics, but we loved it.
It's fun. We like it too. Black Adam photos leaked this week. I don't know how you're feeling about I think we're going to get a lot more with DC Fandom, but just we get a little glimpse of Black Adam there.
So. I did see some of the pictures that got released because DC Fandom released a very large trailer because it is a completely online event.
Yeah.
I have so my qualm is I don't like seeing costumes while things are being filmed.
No.
They never look how they're going to look.
I remember right before The Flash came out on television, an image of him in his suit leaked, and everyone was he was meme-worthy. We were just laughing at it, how ridiculous he looked, but it works.
Well, another example is when Smallville introduced the Justice Society, like this movie is going to. They released the first pictures of Dr. Fate, and everybody's like, oh, it looks terrible, it looks so doofy and dumb and all that. And then they have him in the show, and he's fantastic, like a standout.
Yep.
So, even with like Supergirl got leaked for the new Flash movie, a bunch of stuff gets leaked. I never put stock into it.
I don't either.
You need your post-production. You need your digital effects added in. Look at the Snyder Cut. The Black Suit Superman was not filmed as the Black Suit Superman. Right. That is a red and blue suit the entire time, and then they just digitally colored it.
Another one is like in Avengers Endgame, their time travel suits were all CGI also. They were not wearing those.
Ironically, they were wearing their original suits, though, because there was a bunch of screen behind-the-scenes photos of Chris Evans wearing the Avengers Captain America suit with the time watch. So everybody was like, time travel. But, DC fandom did release it. I have no problem with how the Black Adam suit looks. Shazam's literally on upstairs because TNT's marathoning all the DC stuff to get people hyped. And I love the Shazam suit. And now they retooled it for the new movie. It looks
a lot better.
I have total faith in DC, the costume department. Ever since they learned from Steel, we've been pretty good. I mean, yes, we're gonna talk about that in a second.
And then my last bit is sort of just a minor mention. James Gunn has mentioned that he has another DC project in the works, past Peacemaker,
which was a big theory.
Yeah, we don't know what's going on there. I know he was offered Superman at one point and turned it down for the Suicide Squad.
Well, apparently DC literally said, Here's our catalog,
and they're smart to do that.
A genius, and he picked the right project for him, in my very humble opinion. But I saw Super, which James Gunn did. James Gunn did. I would love to see him do a Suicide Squad versus the Justice League movie. I think that would be his, where they make the Suicide Squad the actual heroes. Oh yeah, I think that would be a lot of fun. Or I think he'd be a great fit for some sort of Green Lantern movie. I think 100%. He has that tone and that look down. Yeah. I really think he could bring a lot to the table. But obviously, he may want to get far away from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, who knows?
Which we were going to talk about in this episode, too. Yeah. All right,
that wraps up the news.
So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we are going to jump right into Marvel's What If. But first, a quick break.
Today's episode is brought to you by Raise Energy Drinks from Rep Sports. Whether you're trying to crush your afternoon workout or just need a little extra pick-me-up, Raise Energy is just the boost that you're going to need. So if you go to repsports.com and any product that you order, enter the code MISFIT89 at checkout to receive 15% off. Anything that you guys buy from that store helps our network grow, and we fully appreciate everything you guys do. That's MISFIT89 at checkout, repsports.com.
All right, guys, we are back, and we are talking Marvel's What If.
Right.
And
here's my Jeffrey Wright imitation. Right?
No, get out of here. All right, so What If is, for those of you guys who don't know, it's a comic line that was introduced in the 1970s, and basically they were one-shot stories. They were, what if this small thing was different, and the comic books that grew out from it.
Spider-Man joined the Fantastic Four. What if, and there were, I think, 47 volumes of it?
They're very popular. Yep. They've only gotten more extravagant as well. Like, what if Deadpool killed the Marvel Universe?
I own that one.
There are a lot of really good ones. DC has a similar line in Elseworlds. I hate to compare DC and Marvel, but it's going to happen. DC did Elseworlds 2 years ago with the CW and their Arrowverse, and it was a lot of fun. It was basically, theirs was, what if Barry and Oliver switch bodies?
Yeah.
So, Ronnie, what were some of your expectations going into What If?
I thought, I'm trying to think of things without spoiling stuff.
I already did the spoiler warning.
Okay, fair enough. I thought this was going to be a lot better than it was. I thought it was going to be a lot more in depth. I thought it was going to be a lot more fun than what it actually turned out to be. I was extremely let down by this show. So I think I was expecting a lot better than this.
All right, Rob, expectations going in.
I had pretty high expectations because remember we were coming off of Loki and we had the 1-2-3 punch of Winter Soldier and WandaVision. So it was clear they knew what they were doing with television, even if they didn't always stick the landing at the end. At least they had good concepts. I'd heard about the What If series in comics, and it always seemed intriguing. And I know about its popularity, so I figured this was going to be kind of interesting. I will say though that not being an animation fan when it comes to, even with DC, and I know DC, I am fully ready to concede that DC has a great animation house. All of their works are fantastic, but I'm just not a fan of that type of animation and I know I like Akira and a lot of the other animes, but there's just something about superhero animation I cannot get into. So I had high expectations in terms of the storylines and the characters. I was excited that all the actors were coming back to do their voices, but I knew it was animation, so I'm like, all right, we'll see where this goes.
All right, so for me,
How about you, Paul?
I was excited. Like, don't get me wrong. Marvel's going to put out a product. Obviously, we're going to watch it not just because we do the podcast, but usually it's a fair bet that MCU properties are for us usually a solid. I think the lowest we've really ever gone was a 3, 2.5 maybe, and that's still average, above average. So I was excited, but I had some trepidation. Number one, Loki's ending just didn't sit well with me.
Right.
For Loki, it took way too long to get to the things we wanted to see. We wanted to see Loki's adventures through the multiverse. Now, we finally get our adventures through the multiverse because that's where the Marvel Universe is going, which, Multiverse of Madness, Venom, Spider-Man, all these things. Mild spoiler for Venom. Sorry, guys. But, so I was excited. And obviously, Jeffrey Wright?
Jeffrey Wright.
He is fantastic. I love Jeffrey Wright. He's another underrated actor who...
Follow me and dare to face the unknown and ponder the question, who farted?
I'm going to just turn off your microphone eventually. No. But he's, Commissioner Gordon now. I'm really excited to see him in the Batman.
Mm-hmm.
But
yes.
So, and yeah, they got a lot of the voice cast back. And obviously Chadwick Boseman was able to record his entire series.
Yeah, which was the highlight of this series.
He was always really good in it, and he was a lot of fun. I liked him as quote-unquote Star-Lord. But my biggest fears were they're going to put Iron Man and Captain America in this, but they're going to replace their actors.
Right.
So I was like, okay.
Which was Cap in this at all?
Yes.
Oh, right. In the first as Steve Rogers.
As Steve Rogers,
right.
yeah. So
in the Hydra Stomper.
He was also Captain America.
When was
Zombie Captain America?
Oh,
yeah.
So.
And then they're very short episodes. You're basically, and kind of getting into thoughts. Captain Carter. I loved the idea. The idea was fantastic. Peggy Carter's a great character. She had her show, which didn't get its full closure, which is upsetting, but she had her closure with Steve Rogers. But then they come out with, it's basically it's Captain America, the first Avenger, but just with her. And so for me, I was let down because I think this would have benefited from some longer episodes.
Yeah.
But does anybody have a favorite what if character? So we had a list of characters that changed in this scenario. I'm going to run through them really quick, just for the listeners. Let me pull up the actual. So we have, what if Captain Carter was the first Avenger? So basically, Peggy Carter gets the Super Soldier Serum instead of Steve Rogers. What if T'Challa became a Star-Lord? Instead of kidnapping Peter Quill, T'Challa gets taken by the Ravagers. I love it. This doesn't even look like him. What if the world lost its mightiest heroes? So really the biggest change in that, I would say, is Hank Pym.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. What if Doctor Strange lost his heart instead of his hands? Obviously, Doctor Strange, instead of losing his hands in the accident, he loses Christine.
Yep.
What if zombies? I would say...
enough said.
Any of the characters that pop into it. What if Killmonger rescued Tony Stark? Instead of Tony Stark getting captured by the Ten Rings, Eric Killmonger was there, and he was the one that saved him. What if Thor was an only child? So Party Thor. That is the...
Party Thor.
And then what if Ultron won? And what if the Watcher broke his oath? So we have a couple of characters that go through very different characterizations than they do in the main MCU. Mm-hmm. Does anyone have... And you could also pick some of the side characters. Does anybody have a favorite one?
I liked Star-Lord T'Challa.
Star-Lord T'Challa?
Yeah.
I might agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You tell me why.
Because he was still T'Challa, I think. Like, there wasn't really that much of a change other than him being, captured or taken by the Ravagers. And I've always loved T'Challa. So I think there wasn't really a big change, and I think that's why I kind of still liked him, was he had a little bit more of the Star-Lord humor to him. But other than that, him and I did like Party Thor.
Party Thor.
Yeah.
Rob?
Yeah, I don't know if I can pick one, but I will say it was fascinating to see the T'Challa as Star-Lord episode because it really spoke to just how much kindness and morality T'Challa puts out into the universe, and how it just had that ripple effect. That ultimately, it even changed Thanos' mind in there.
Yeah.
About everything. And it was such a damning statement about the type of individual that Peter Quill is. That he's just such kind of a jerk that he perpetuates nastiness in the universe, whereas T'Challa is the opposite of that.
See, I disagree about Peter Quill. I don't find him to be that way. He is the one that unites the Guardians of the Galaxy. I think Peter Quill's problem is his very quick emotional reaction to things.
Yes.
And we see it several times.
It's his problem. He's the reason why Thanos was able to snap.
But in all honesty, I would say Thor is a bigger reason, but okay.
He didn't go for the head?
Yeah, because he wanted to savor the kill. He wanted Thanos to suffer. Yeah. So talking about, toxic kind of warrior mindset. But for me, when we talk about Peter Quill, because everybody points out, like, why did he freak out? We saw him do that when Ego said that he killed his mother. You see that same snap, and he just immediately... So he's a very Wild West type character, whereas T'Challa was born royalty. Right. He was trained from a young age to be a certain person, and obviously it reflects in his character too. T'Challa is a good person in the comics. So I don't think, and that's like what everybody said online. Everybody was like, "Well, it's because Peter Quill's like the worst." I was like, I don't find Peter Quill to be the worst.
I agree. Maybe I didn't say it properly. I feel.
Oh no, I wasn't arguing with you.
Oh right, I know. Peter Quill is a very selfish character, whereas T'Challa is a very selfless character, and I think that for me is what showed out.
Because Peter Quill is that gunslinger type Wild West outlaw who will save you, but also be like, and now,
and to be honest, it's probably a character most of us can more identify with than T'Challa, whereas he's just such a good person.
I mean, look at the way they grew up, right? You have one that had to scrap and fight to survive, and you had one that didn't have to do anything because he was born into royalty.
Also, imagine getting kidnapped right after your mom died in front of you. Ugh, rough.
Who was your favorite, Paul?
For me, like, it was tough. Like, T'Challa was fantastic. I really did enjoy him, but I gotta say, Killmonger. I really do.
I could see that.
Yep.
Eric Killmonger is by far the best, or at least top 5 Marvel villains. And I'm not even talking just the MCU. I'm talking just...
Yeah.
I might even argue
general.
comic book villains. And this series showed his intelligence. It showed how dangerous he is.
Yeah.
And it just shows what a hell-bent character he is. He has this mentality about him that he is always playing chess while everybody else is playing checkers. So having him come back, having Michael B. Jordan voice him, which is great, it made a big difference for me.
All right, I want to change my answer. I want to say, actually, Peggy Carter.
Okay.
It was so nice having watched Agent Carter and seeing her, being such an oppressed individual because of her gender. It was great to just see her kick ass.
Oh yeah, and I think, I did thoroughly enjoy when they redid the Winter Soldier scene with her.
Yeah,
and they gave her like the Winter Soldier outfit, and she was on the boat with the Lumerian Star fighting.
Okay, yes, with Batroc, yes.
Yeah, that was just a lot of fun, and we're going to talk about this more towards the ends. I hope they find a way to connect. And this is the problem I think a lot of people have. Rob, you mentioned the animation aspect of it. It's very hard when you do animation of a comic book. It's done one of a couple of ways. One, if it's based on an actual comic book, they will take it the same style, the complete style. Superman Red Sun. And that's another good example where they literally just take the comic book and put it in animated form.
Like Batman Year One,
stuff like that. DC's got a lot of them in their pantheon.
Yeah. Oh,
but
Killing Joke even too.
Killing Joke, it looks exactly like it. But for me, I found the animation jarring at times. Mm-hmm. And then, especially the last episode, which is a lot of bang, 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 explosions, cool fight scenes, like we're all about it. But it was just, for me, it was sometimes... It doesn't seem like I'm watching the MCU.
Yeah, for me, I can't admire the craft of the filmmaking because it's a different type of filmmaking than what I'm used to. Mm-hmm. Like, with a really well choreographed, think of something like John Wick, something that has a really well choreographed fight scene. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. It's like ballet. It's incredible. Whereas this, it's like, oh, they drew that neatly.
Yeah.
And I just can't muster up the same level of enthusiasm.
Ronnie, what did you think about the animation?
I didn't have a problem with it. I mean, growing up, that was kind of the animation we saw for the most part. So it kind of like brought me back to the good old days.
You were watching cartoons last week. God.
Technically, I was. I mean,
actually, yeah.
actually, a couple days ago.
You're right.
But I didn't have a problem with it necessarily. But I still was like, I think it would have been better to see him a little bit more realistic animation.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that.
Then this was more cartoony 90s
like almost
animation.
Looney Tunes-ish,
Yeah.
kind of Animaniacs almost,
Yeah.
kind of at times.
Yeah.
It was a weird blend between we're going to try and make this look super realistic and also super cartoony.
Yeah.
I feel like pick a lane and do one or the other. Like Spectacular Spider-Man is a show that was on Disney, I think Disney XD, and
I remember it.
It did 2 seasons, and it had some of the best Spider-Man animation I've ever seen, and it's fantastic. But it is very cartoonish.
Well, again, like Into the Spider-Verse, I had no problem getting into that. I thought it was amazing, and
I had trouble just
really,
visually.
you're not
just
alone.
like
I've heard a lot of people say
just
that.
like eyes and brain were kind of
it's
jarring. Like even in the new Spider-Man Miles Morales game, you could change your settings so that it matches that.
Oh wow!
There's like a suit ability that like changes the frames per second and
so cool.
Yeah, it's very cool when you're playing. But for me watching Spider-Verse, I was like my brain. But eventually, same thing. Now we talked about some of the returning characters that we like. Let's talk about the Watcher, or as he's really known as, I'm going to mispronounce this, Uatu the Watcher.
Okay.
It's Uatu. That's his actual name.
It is pronounced Uatu.
Uatu. Yeah. So the Watchers are basically, they are exactly what their race sounds like. They are a race of extraterrestrials appearing in American comic books published by Marvel Comics.
And there is more than one.
There are more than one, and they did make their first visual appearance in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Hey guys, where are you going? Oh geez, you're my ride.
Why are you doing all these voices today?
He does these voices. It sounds like the real people.
It didn't, but okay. So apparently there was a rumor that Stan Lee's character in all these Marvel movies was actually an agent of the Watchers because he's regaling them with stories. And the Watchers are exactly what they are supposed to do. They're one of the oldest species in the multiverse, and basically all they do is just watch the universes in flux.
Are they older than the Eternals?
It just says that they are one of the oldest ones.
I have to figure this out at some point in the next month. Who's the oldest? Is it the Watchers, the Eternals, or the Celestials?
Well, I think when we get to the Eternals,
I think
the Celestials are older than the Eternals.
I think you're right.
Yeah, I mean, I think Galactus and the old gods came first.
Okay.
So we'd have to do some research.
Research to the internet.
But basically, the Watchers are just designed to not interfere with the events of the universe. I would say seeing him interfere with Ultron was one of my favorite scenes in the entire show.
Yeah.
So for those of you guys, obviously, who you watch the show, one of the episodes is what if Ultron had actually won?
And let's just preface this by saying that this is the 8th episode in the series, the second to last episode, and at this point there was 0 connections between any of the episodes.
Which is how the what if stories were supposed to go. The what if stories were always singular stories that had no bearing on the main continuity of the Marvel Universe. Now, throughout the show, we do see there's some great artwork with the Watcher, quote unquote, watching. Like you see his silhouette in like the clouds and stuff like that. Like really cool visual stuff with that. The first time one of the characters interacts with the Watcher, though, is Doctor Strange. Mm-hmm. He is aware that the Watcher is there and the Watcher's watching him. He begs him for help too. He begs him to help him fix his universe because now he's all Cthulhu style.
Yeah.
And then Doctor Strange.
Good reference.
Thank you. I'm a big H.P. Lovecraft kind of guy.
I can tell.
Yeah, I still have to watch Lovecraft Country though. Not gonna lie, but
it's complicated.
I've heard. Yeah. HBO Max is the best though. So sorry, Disney Plus. Sponsorship out the door. So Doctor Strange basically traps himself in his own pocket universe to protect himself from his universe imploding, because in these universes, the rules are you cannot change what's supposed to happen in these what ifs. So if it's what if I went left instead of right, there's no physical way I can go right. Physical way. Mm-hmm. I'll get stopped by like a duck that hits me in the face. I'll get stopped by slipping and going to the left.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed the Doctor Strange episode because it was heart-wrenching and depressing. And I'm not saying, I like being depressed. I like a Marvel property that's not afraid to go a little bit darker.
It had heart.
It had, or lack thereof. Yeah. But, so that was probably one of the episodes that impacted me the most. But it wasn't until Ultron 1 that we finally see somebody breaking through the multiverse. Right. Because all of these Loki and WandaVision and what looks like Spider-Man Far From Home are all about the multiverse is about to collide in a big way. I was kind of disappointed that they made no reference to Kang. And who was
Kang the Conqueror.
He Who Remains, that's who he was. Yeah. I was very upset that because basically they established that there were no separate timelines at all with Kang the Conqueror / He Who Remains in charge. And then it wasn't until he died that all these started splitting off.
Yeah.
But the Watcher makes it seem like, oh no, this was always
this can happen.
This always happened. Yeah. Every Friday, this is what I tune into, guys. Every Wednesday on Disney Plus, new episodes. But that was and that made it feel even further disconnected from everything that was going on.
Yeah.
I feel like, for me anyway, I would love to see some of these multiverse characters make their live action debut. Captain Carter, sign me up. Just put her in a movie. Rob,
I have a theory.
Hit it.
And it came to me today because all right, first of all, in our household, I'm the only one of the three of us that made it to the end. Timmy and Lauren punched out around, I think it was Zombies, that they just went, I'm not interested. Yeah, it was that one. They weren't interested anymore. So I finished watching it, and they asked me to, so how did it end? And I said, how this and everything. And then I said, and Timmy asked, is it possible some of these people are going to show up in live action? And I said, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Agent Carter showed up. And then it hit me. This is how they're going to solve the lack of Chadwick Boseman problem. Is Killmonger is going to be brought in from this multiverse as Black Panther. And I think that's where they're going. Remember, he died at the end of Black Panther, and so how can we bring him back?
Well,
he's a multiverse character.
If you guys listen to our Venom episode and our Spider-Man episodes, we do mention that all those Spider-Man villains died.
Right.
They did die.
Yes.
So, because we did spoilers for Venom, guys. We talked about Carnage and the fate of Carnage and how they could potentially bring him back. And one of the theories was, well, all those other villains were killed beforehand, so why would this be any different? So I could see them either bringing back. I would be better if they brought back Killmonger before he died. Same Killmonger from the main continuity. Because I feel like if they bring back this Killmonger, he doesn't want to be Black Panther.
Right, but remember, you can even when Loki was brought back for his show, that was the Avengers Loki, and he didn't want to be a hero, but they gave him a character arc to come back. So I think
they did exposition for him, and he was like, oh. He watched
the
Avengers.
Some sort of metaphor with a salad and throwing things into it.
So we're jumping all over the place, but really that's the problem with the What If storyline, because at first we didn't think any of this was going to connect.
No.
So let's talk about Ultron. Now, Ronnie, what were your thoughts on Ultron in Avengers Age of Ultron? How they handled him?
He's a character that's forgettable. I didn't really gravitate. I didn't really like him in Avengers Ultron, to be honest with you. I thought for a movie to be named after a character and that character take a back seat or not even in the same vehicle, I think is a complete letdown. I thought Ultron was better in this show than he was in Age of Ultron.
That's a general consensus.
Yeah, and I think we can all agree that of all the Avengers movies, that one's the weakest.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Because the problem, and I'm going to ask you in a second, Rob, what your thoughts are. I think just for me, the problem with Age of Ultron is every other team-up movie has had stakes that have led to further ramifications.
Yeah.
Civil War caused Infinity War. It's because the Avengers were split that they were not able to defeat Thanos. But Rob, what were your thoughts on Ultron, the character in Age of Ultron?
I would agree 100% with Ronnie. He was very forgettable. It was a shame that they didn't do more with him. I love that James Spader voiced him because he's amazing. But yeah, I don't think I've seen that movie in quite some time, and I have no desire to rewatch it. In fact, the only thing memorable from that movie is Quicksilver and Wanda.
But you're saying something, because a lot of people forget about Quicksilver. And I found him and Clint Barton to have one of the best
Oh yeah,
rivalry, because it's very easy in these superhero team up movies. We fought once and now we're besties. I loved how Quicksilver and Hawkeye were constantly trying to one up each other, and I hope if they really do some sort of multiverse stuff with them that they find a way to bring him back. But for me, Ultron, I agree with you, Rob. James Spader's fantastic, and he kills the role. Every time Ultron speaks, he catches you. Yeah. It's a combination of his voice. It's a combination of he has some great lines in the movie. But again, for somebody, one of the most powerful beings in the Marvel universe, one of the biggest constant threats to the Avengers, and the personification of how terrible in the comics Hank Pym was, but in this continuity how bad Tony Stark is. I'm going to throw a rock. That was his plan.
Yeah.
Meteor, dinosaurs. Okay, Ultron. But we also just had a bigger budget, so flying space city. So for me, having him come in and then literally obliterate Thanos was that bothered me. Thanos popped in with, I think, 5 of the Infinity Stones.
Yeah. Oh, and he just slices them in half.
We've seen characters tank that, like take that shot and not die.
Yeah, I was a little shocked how quick that happened.
I wanted them to, if they had done a line like Vision, the Watcher could have said it. The Vision always held back. Ultron does not, and he uses the full power of the stone.
Yeah,
especially considering it's the Mind Stone.
Yeah,
the Mind Stone beat 5 other Infinity Stones.
Here's the thing with this entire series, and what you're saying, I think, hints at a bigger issue. If you think too hard about any of this, it all falls apart completely.
Correct.
I don't think you can imply too much logic here because it's not going to work. It's just going to fall to pieces.
It's not here for logic. It's here for entertainment.
Yeah, yes. and I think that was the purpose of a lot of the what ifs, that it was just pure entertainment. Whereas we want. And I wrote about this. I watched the first 3 episodes, and I wrote a response to why I didn't think What If was working. I changed a little bit on some things, but one of the things to this is that its purpose was just pure entertainment, and we want stakes. We want to be able to.
Yeah, we do.
I knew as soon as I said that. No, we want there to be ramifications and effects as a result of actions and words. And this was like they hit the reset button at the end of every episode.
I was going to say we didn't get it until episode 8 out of 9.
And I wish we had known that a little bit beforehand. I know they kept saying, "Oh, this is all going to tie in together," and I'm like, "This isn't tying together."
No, that's not possible.
If they had at the very first episode just shown us like a quick flash, and then gone into the main story
2 hours earlier.
I think this show would have been better if they had skipped all the different What If episodes and just done a quote-unquote Guardians of the Multiverse series.
I was thinking about that. I think that would have been good.
They picked What If because What If has a title to it. It's a well-known publication. The Marvel fans know it, and it's a great concept. It really is. Like, Marvel Zombies are one of my favorite storylines. They're always fun. And even the zombie episode was fun. And, Peter Parker doing his little How to Survive the Zombie Apocalypse video series was great. Ant-Man in a Jar.
Yeah.
For me,
that's one of the best characters.
If they want to go for a season 2, quote unquote, and just be like Guardians of the Multiverse, where basically they almost like a Legends of Tomorrow, where they pick some of these, and you could do little intro episodes, or something
with backstory
small like that.
and stuff.
I'm fine with that. But or if you want to do that live action movie, go for it. Do a Captain Carter leading this team of quote unquote Guardians or Avengers, however you want to call them, that travel multiverse to multiverse, trying to
solve what ifs
and fix the what ifs or change things or put them in Loki. This is the perfect opportunity for Loki to now be like, I need this person's help. That's Captain Carter or Frost Giant Loki. Like, have some fun with it. I feel like they keep playing it safe with these things because it's like Rob said, we hit the reset button at the end.
And to me, also, so many of the stories seemed so like just coincidental. Or just like, hey, let's throw these two together and see what happens. Like, there just didn't seem to be a logic behind why they were doing it. That, like even with the What If the Zombie episode, it was like, just seemed so random. And there didn't seem to be a thought behind it. All right, I don't want to go any. Go ahead.
I just love how Hank Pym was just the worst in all of these episodes.
Yeah.
I did. So let's talk about some things that we liked, because I don't want to sit here and bash this whole thing, because I had plenty of things that I thoroughly enjoyed. I remember Melanie and I were watching it, and I'm just like, that's an interesting. So one thing I really enjoyed is they went back to the Incredible Hulk. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they retconned that.
For me, The Incredible Hulk is actually one of my favorite of the original six movies, whatever
Something
it
like
was.
that,
The original setup of the Avengers. It was so different. It was so dark. It had such a convoluted production behind it, and obviously the recasting of Edward Norton to Mark Ruffalo,
Which was from what's his name in the very first Hulk movie?
what was that?
Ang Lee's Hulk. Well,
Yeah. Oh God, that was terrible.
Yeah.
That was Eric Bana.
Eric Bana, that's
So for me, I really like the Incredible Hulk. It's so different from the rest of the MCU. It really is kind of the forgotten stepchild of
Yes.
it, but. Like, it was dark, it was psychological, it was, the Hulk was the monster in it, and there's some great visuals in it. So for them to bring back that movie and, Betty Ross and redo that scene and then see the Hulk explode,
Yeah.
like, it was really, for me, I really enjoyed it. So that was one of my biggest highlights, especially to start off and, in a show that, for the most part, and when we get to Star City ratings, I kind of feel where everybody is at this point. But that was one of my
I'm gonna have a hard time with that.
my standout type things. Ronnie, did you have a moment or a character or something that really you enjoyed, just like knocked you out?
Oh, this is bad. To be honest,
He's gonna say no. Oh, no.
to be honest with you, not really.
Not even Party Thor.
Party Thor was great, but it's just, I don't know. Like, yeah, there's characters like we said earlier. Party Thor I enjoyed. T'Challa, Star-Lord, I enjoyed. But really, after that, it's just a bunch of, okay, that was kind of cool, kind of stuff. Nothing really stuck out. Like, if you tell me to pick a favorite episode, honestly, it's hard. If I didn't have Wikipedia up with the description of the, what do you call it? The description of the episodes, I couldn't tell you what it was about, to be honest with you.
I don't blame you either.
But again, if I had to pick one, I would say episode 1 was probably my favorite because I at least got excited for it. Because I think the first episode, it was like, ooh, this seems like it's going to be fun, it's going to be awesome and everything. And then it kind of went downhill, from there. It all kind of just plateaued after number 1 instead
Is it
of going
possible
up.
because I have to say I felt similar with the Peggy Carter episode, but is it possible that we just didn't have any expectations, and then when we saw that, we were like, oh, it's good. Like, for example, did the Peggy Carter lose luster over time?
I mean, I haven't watched any of these more than once.
Right.
I don't really plan on watching any of them.
No, me neither.
Except for maybe the last 2 episodes I thought were pretty solid. Because it at least made the story and gave you a season 2 possibility.
Right.
But
because for me, the like when I first watched the Peggy Carter episode, I'm like, all right, that was fun. But after seeing the others, I'm like, wait, that's all their tricks? They don't have anything else?
yeah, it was definitely interesting.
Rob, a personal favorite?
Looking at the thing here. Okay, here's let me give it this way. Here's a personal favorite approach. I liked it when they modeled it after like a specific genre or tone and kept with it for the entire episode. For example, the Doctor Strange episode, the time loop idea. We've seen that done a number of times, even in Supernatural and Groundhog Day, and they did it to tragic effect, which I thought that was neat to see. That I think the episode didn't make sense because he was never really into Christine all that much to begin with, and to lose her didn't make sense.
Yeah.
But that's why also the What If Thor Were an Only Child is one of my favorite episodes, because it leaned into that sort of like 1980s risky business kind of like, I'm throwing the big party, but if my parents are coming home, I need to clean up before they get here. Like, that was actually kind of funny, and seeing everyone through that different lens was really great. Like, being able to see everybody like that. Like, for example, if you remember from Spider-Man the first one was Homecoming. Spider-Man Homecoming was like a John Hughes movie, if you remember that. Like, it was like, Ferris Bueller, Breakfast Club kind of feel to it. And like having that a tonal approach to it kind of made sense, whereas like some of these episodes just didn't make sense tonally. Like, for example, the zombie episode was silly.
Yeah.
And like people would die, and they would like friends of theirs that that they loved for years died, and they would like make a quip. Like it just
That sounds like Marvel.
it just didn't make sense to me.
I don't know. Like for me, and I totally agree. I think that the tone was sometimes a little off, and sometimes it felt weird where they were going. I just kind of feel I would rather, if you're going to do something with the multiverse, and especially something that ends in a culmination of warriors from the multiverse fighting for something. Did it have to be Ultron?
Oh, you're saying it shouldn't have culminated in that?
I want a movie that's literally just called Multiverse War.
Yeah, that would be
Like,
fun.
have Avengers Multiverse, and that gives you a chance to bring back some of your characters. Like, I hate to say it, but it really disappointed me that Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. did not want to come back for this. I'm sure they were offered.
Chris Evans did.
Chris Evans did not.
Wait, what?
Chris Evans did not come back for this.
I'm going to challenge that. I'm looking.
You're going to challenge it. All right, so let's
Chris,
see.
Let's see. Nope, Chris Hemsworth. Oh, I'm thinking duh.
Yeah, you.
Sorry, yes.
Why don't you lay down
I was
there?
thinking Chris Hemsworth. Sorry.
Josh Keaton.
Yes, Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. did not come back. Most probably because their contract with Marvel was over.
And that's fair, and I get that.
Like Scarlett Johansson also did, and I think it was Lake Bell that.
Yeah, and Josh Keaton, who played the Spectacular Spider-Man, Peter Parker.
Oh yeah.
He was the one that did Skinny Steve Rogers, Hydra Stomper, or Steve Rogers / Captain America. We're also going to talk about some of the cast because it's just fantastic.
Yeah.
But it was jarring sometimes to see those iconic scenes with those iconic characters not having their voices.
Yeah, I will say for me the biggest moment for that was the Robert Downey Jr. where it just seemed like a parody of Robert Downey Jr. when I was listening to it.
It was a little just weird.
Yeah, because Scarlett Johansson not being there, she actually, what's her name? Is it Zoe Bell or Lake Bell? I forget.
Lake Bell.
Lake Bell. Like she's a good actress, and I've heard her in a number of things before.
But it's even funnier because then they got Ego to come back.
I know, and they get Jeff Goldblum to give like 3 lines.
And they probably made more money than we'll ever
know.
see in our entire lives.
Yeah.
I will say having Paul Rudd as Scott Lang was still the best.
Oh,
Thank God.
Paul Rudd is just a gift to mankind.
You know who I was glad came back? Frank Grillo. Frank Grillo.
I was just going to say, actually, that's funny you should mention that, because I was just going to mention Frank Grillo.
He comes back for everything.
He's a good egg.
I like him. He's very loyal to the brand, and he always tells people, like, I always want to come back. If they have an opportunity to bring me back, I'm going to be there. Like, he had 2 lines.
Yeah, and he was in a few episodes, too.
Which makes me even more upset that in Black Widow, they didn't do a prequel and have Crossbones be a character.
Yeah, they should have.
Like, oh, God, it makes me even more... Black Widow had better stories in this than she did in the movie.
Yeah.
Which is just really upsetting.
Oh, they didn't have Brie Larson.
All right,
which I heard that was a scheduling conflict.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. So in the Party Thor episode, I believe, what if Thor was an only child?
Right.
They call Captain Marvel to come back to Earth and help. And she and Thor come to blows twice.
Right.
I thoroughly enjoyed her and Thor fighting because who do you think is the stronger Avenger?
Out of the 2 of them?
Out of the 2 of them.
That's funny you should mention that, because I just watched a video today about this, about that she seems to be the stronger Avenger, but then when it comes to Mjolnir, she's not. Like she
can't lift it.
Yeah, she can't lift it, so she gets trapped under it. So I think she might be the strongest Avenger over Thor at least, but if Thor has Mjolnir, then he's the strongest Avenger.
I will argue that we had Party Thor versus Captain Marvel. Mm-hmm. I think Stormbreaker peak Thor landing in Wakanda Thor. Bring me Thanos Thor.
Bring me Thanos.
That was peak Thor.
Okay.
Because that was when he was in full control. So they established in Thor Ragnarok that his powers don't come from the hammer. His powers come from him, and the hammer is just a focus point for him. Mm-hmm. So once he figured that out, he was able to harness his powers to their fullest potential. Just like how Captain Marvel figured out at the end of her movie how to go into her binary form and find her highest potential.
Right.
But then Thor gets a weapon. So if I was to have a force that was powerful enough, like my power was focused through something, and then I figured out how to make it better without the focusing point, but then focus this new level of power.
Yeah.
I can't help but feel like, and he fired that Stormbreaker went through every Infinity Stone blasting at him,
Right,
and hit Thanos.
Yeah.
Like,
See, I'm also thinking back, like you were saying, back to the Thor movie, the Taika Waititi Thor.
Yeah.
Where he doesn't have
Mjolnir
anymore, and he's able to channel it without Mjolnir.
That's when he realized how powerful he truly was. And then you also get Captain Marvel gets knocked out by the Power Stone.
Yeah.
Like, just the Power Stone, Thanos is able to sucker punch her with it. So for me, I think, because that was always a question, who the strongest Avenger? In all honesty, I think it always goes to Hulk, Thor, and Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
We established that Thor could beat Hulk. And let's not forget, Thor also, he's a warrior. He's trained as a warrior. The Hulk is a brute. So Thor has that combat efficiency that
like, and this was one of the things that I had about What If, that at times it felt just like this, like 2 a.m. pot talk.
Yeah.
Where people were just like, dude, whose eyes shine the brightest in all the Avengers?
But see, I like some of that stuff. Like, answer the questions.
Yeah.
Like, we don't need a what if Captain Carter or Peggy Carter becomes Captain America, or Captain Carter in this case, because she was just Steve Rogers. Yeah. I hate to say it. Don't get me wrong. I loved Captain Carter. I thought she was great, but she was Steve. She followed the same
she was exactly
character
the same
arc.
thing. That's a good point.
I would have much rather preferred she was different than Steve. Like, make her, like, Peggy and Steve were different people. They were different characters. They had their own identity. They gave her Steve's. I think in the last episode of What If, she kind of shined a little bit as her own, but she was, I hate to say it because I love Captain Carter and I love Peggy Carter, the character. She was Steve Rogers.
No.
T'Challa was still T'Challa. He just had space lasers.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not trying to be mean because
but I think you're right too. I have, in case you can't tell, we all have a lot of, except for Ronnie apparently, we all have very mixed feelings about this. That there's a lot of good, there's a lot of bad, and I don't know how to deal with it all. Like, I think we can all agree that the voice casting is amazing. The fact that they brought I'm just looking at the cast list voice-wise for Party Thor episode, and Natalie Portman, Tom Hiddleston, Chris Hemsworth, Kat Dennings, Sam Jackson, Jeff Goldblum, Kobe Smulders, Clark Gregg, Frank. It just goes on and on. It's everybody.
And they brought back some of the, like, Dominic Cooper comes back as Howard Stark, Stanley Tucci,
Rachel House for Topaz. Like, the fact that she comes back for like 1 or 2 lines, that's amazing.
I made it a point that when we watched it, we skipped the intro, so I wouldn't see the voice cast.
Oh, see, I made sure not to skip the intro for that exact reason, because I wanted to.
I had more fun watching it going, is that so-and-so?
Yeah.
And then, like, pausing it at the end and be like, it is so-and-so. I mean, even Jon Favreau comes back as Happy Hogan.
Yeah. And I think they did the best. It's probably the best voice cast ever. However, having said that, not everyone is a voice actor.
Correct.
And I will still cite Michael Douglas did a horrendous job as Hank Pym.
It was
as
jarring.
A voice actor. He just shouted his lines. Whereas if you look at
inflection.
No. And if you look at, say, like Kat Dennings or Chris Hemsworth or Natalie Portman, and their voice work was really great in Party Thor. I know we keep calling it Party Thor episode, but that's really what it was.
It's faster.
Yeah.
But for me, the 2 voice actors that really stood out was Chris Hemsworth is fantastic, and I'm so glad they're finally leading to it. He's funny. He is a really funny guy.
Actor. He has great comic timing.
And he could do the great action scenes. Like, most people will say that Thor landing in Wakanda and the Bring Me Thanos line is one of the best Marvel moments that they've ever done. But so he was one, and then I gotta say Seth Green is Howard the Duck.
Oh yeah.
Because Seth Green knows voice work. He did Robot Chicken for years. He's on Family Guy. He's on. I'm a big Seth Green fan. I really do enjoy his work. Having said that, I would love a Howard the Duck animated series. I think
That'd be fun. It'd be like a Leisure Suit Larry kind of show for those of you older listeners that even know what that is.
I can get that, but I think having him kind of like almost like a PG-13 Deadpool would be a lot of fun. Just him going through the Marvel universe.
Oh yeah.
He fights it in the Avengers Endgame battle. He's there with the Ravagers. So having said that, what would be, if they do a season 2, what would be at least a what if that you would enjoy?
Well, here's the weird thing, and we briefly mentioned this earlier. There was a cut moment in the finale where it was Iron Man and Gamora.
That was so jarring how they just put them in.
Do you know the story behind that?
No.
Oh, this was supposed to be 10 episodes.
There it is.
And they had to cut something, and they didn't finish it on time. And I think COVID was one of the factors in it, so they cut it. And yeah, because I have to say, when I saw Gamora and Iron Man, I'm like, wait, did I miss an episode? So I had to go online and I looked it up, and I'm like, oh, that's why, because it was the 10th episode. So that's where that came from, and I don't know.
So I'll say one.
Oh, you got one? Yeah. Go ahead.
Again, mild spoilers for Venom, but it looks like we're going to a point where Spider-Man and Venom are going to cross paths. And if they don't give him the black suit, the fans are going to revolt.
Yeah.
They did a great story, a great what-if story, where it was, what if Spider-Man never gave up the black suit? And I really enjoy the story. It's a good story. So I would like a what-if with Spider-Man, if they're able to, logistically. What if Uncle Ben never died? Because we've seen... This is the only time we've seen Peter Parker in a movie where we're not dealing with the Uncle Ben stuff. They're staying as far away from it as they possibly can, and Tony Stark kind of became the pseudo-Uncle Ben. So if they're going to do another what if, I want another Spider-Man what if, and either what if the symbiote and Peter Parker bonded completely, or what if Uncle Ben had never died? I just feel like that'd be a lot of fun.
I don't know. I'm looking at past episodes. I'm looking at issues of. Wow, there's
so many.
Yeah, I'm looking at the issues of them. What if Gwen Stacy had lived? What if Doctor Doom had become a hero?
What if Captain America had not vanished during World War II?
What if Daredevil was an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
So that's another missed opportunity, a very big missed opportunity that they could have introduced all those other. And that's the other thing. I have no problem. This is also me trying to give you time to
think about it. Thank you.
But I have no problem with them using these characters that we know. Your Peggy Carters, your Thors, your this and your that. I think it's playing it safe. They could have introduced trillions of characters. We got barely any new characters in this.
That's true. Yes.
I would have loved... What if the Defenders were Earth's mightiest heroes? What if, Betty Ross became the Hulk? Like, there's so many possibilities that they just... It is a shame.
You know what? Okay. Here's the approach, and I know this might even go against the what if concept a little bit, but I feel like, what if they were to take something that we already knew and then just changed the ending to see how it played out differently? What if Thanos had succeeded, and what would his life have been like after and 5 years had become longer? What if I don't know.
Here's a good one. You ready?
Yeah.
What if the X-Men had existed?
Oh, how would the Avengers?
How would the That would be a perfect time for them to have some fun. They could do a whole lot of work with that. What if the Eternals didn't just watch?
Oh, and they got in there. Yeah. Because so many of these what ifs seemed like such a slight kind of altercation to the way things were. Let's take this character and throw them in over here, and it just seemed like it should be more than just that. What if I'm trying to think of a movie. Let's see. I don't know. I'm going blank.
What if Miles Morales was Spider-Man?
Yeah,
stuff like that. I feel like what if is the time for you to experiment and really go outside the norm, and also introduce all these different characters and all these different concepts. And if obviously they're working on Fantastic Four and X-Men, that's in their pipeline. They have the rights to it now. It'd be a good way to test the waters, see what people respond well to. So what if Captain America won Civil War? You can have a lot of fun with this.
What if, I was just going to say the Civil War one. What if, Tony proved to be right, and they all, what if they all did register?
Oh, yeah.
How would that have changed things?
What if they defeated Thanos in Infinity War? How would the Marvel Universe be different? Because now the big thing with the Marvel Universe is the blip and the return of all the people that got snapped away. What if the Avengers didn't break up?
What if Thor ended up not being worthy?
I mean, you could have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
What if Tony Stark died?
Yeah. Yeah, what if Tony Stark ended up dying in the Middle East?
Yeah.
And never created the suit? What if Nick Fury decided to go into something totally different, like a different initiative?
What if Nick Fury used that stupid pager when Loki invaded?
What if Nick Fury stayed away from cats?
Oh, God. So what if we feel it's one of the first Marvel properties to not live up to its expectation and live at, not even expectation, its potential.
Yeah.
And now that's making me a little nervous because we also said the exact same thing about Black Widow. I'm scared because there's always that fear, right? There's that fear that we're getting into,
backlash.
Not even backlash, just I'm trying to think of the oversaturation.
Oh, yeah.
And we did the Marvel and don't get me wrong, the Marvel formula is great. Shang-Chi was fantastic.
It was.
We loved it. I think we were 4s and almost 5s across the board.
Really awesome.
But it stood out because it was different. Black Widow checked off every Marvel trope, unfortunately, and didn't.
It played it safe.
It played it the safest it possibly could, and now I feel like What If did the same thing.
Yeah.
So, or what if Norman Osborn was in the Marvel universe? Like, we could have a lot of fun, especially if they're gonna. For me, I feel like Spider-Man: Far From Home or No Way Home, excuse me, is going to reevaluate the multiverse.
What's the black film noir Spider-Man? Is that what he's
Spider-Man
called?
Noir, yeah.
Like, what if he was ended up being having to battle the Goblin instead? Of,
like a lot of fun.
I would have liked, and you bring up a really great point, is that they played it safe in bringing us characters that we already knew. Wouldn't it be neat to have seen some characters we had never seen before?
What if Harry Osborn got bit by the spider instead of Peter Parker?
Oh yeah.
What if Ned got bit by the spider? Because we still haven't gotten that story.
Yeah.
So now would be the chance to kind of tell it.
Yeah. I showed an episode to my comic book class.
Mm-hmm.
It was, and I went in cold. It was the Tony Stark Killmonger episode,
which is a fantastic episode.
They all hated it.
Really?
Yeah.
Can you give me some reasons why?
They just felt that it seemed arbitrary. They felt that it was just, throwing two people in a room and seeing what happens.
Yeah.
And I would agree with you that a lot of people have said that episode and the Marvel, what if Marvel's Greatest Avengers didn't exist, are two of the greatest ones. I have to say those are two of my least ones.
Interesting.
Yeah, because I think tonally it was just all over the place, and it was interesting in terms of a character study, watching the two of them play off of each other, but it just seemed like just too random for me, and them too. They were not into it.
So we went deep into the what if rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Talk about the series. Going back to the series, Star City rating, Rob.
That's a tough one.
Would you like me to go first?
No, I got this. Now here's my advice. I don't think, if you are going to watch this series, I don't think you have to watch every single episode. I think you can skip some. Like, I have to be honest, for as much as I was looking forward to the Marvel Zombies episode, to me that was one of the slightest ones. And
barely even reference to it in the finale.
Exactly.
It's just with Wanda.
And I'm not even sure if when you watch the What If episodes, you even need to see the finale. I will give it to you that there is some good stuff in the finale with it all coming together. But, like, if you only watched, say, like, the Doctor Strange and the Party Thor episodes, I think you'd be fine. So I really think that this is a show for Marvel completists that need to watch every single MCU property. Otherwise, I don't think you have to watch this. So although there are some episodes that I think individually I would give like 3 or 3.5 stars to, I think ultimately I can't give more than like 2 stars to the entire series.
That's fair. Ronnie?
So my Star City rating for this show in its entirety, I would give probably a 1.5.
Whoa.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, I wouldn't watch the show again. There's really not an episode I'd watch again. Again, I couldn't tell you what certain episodes were about. Everything was very forgettable, which is sad because again, we were all kind of excited going into this, like, ooh, this is a fun storyline and everything. This is gonna be great. And it fell super flat. It's so sad that there's so much they could have done that they didn't do with this show. The best thing they did was end it with that mid-credit scene. To be honest with you, that was the best part of this show, was the mid-credit scene.
Yeah.
And even that isn't anything crazy spectacular. So it's sad, but yeah, I'll give this a 1.5.
All right. So for me,
that was good, Ronnie. Thanks.
For me, it was. It's tough because there are some really great moments and great shots. Like Thor versus Captain America was one of my highlights because that was always that was what I wanted. Those are the questions that I wanted.
Thor versus Captain America?
Captain Marvel.
Oh, Captain Marvel.
Oh, excuse me. Did I say Captain America?
Yeah, okay. I got lost for a second.
Yeah, me too. But Thor versus Captain Marvel was one of my favorite bits because that is the what if fully powered Captain Marvel versus Thor.
Yeah.
Like, those are the kind of things I want from a what if. But I'm going to give it a 2.5.
Oh, more than me. Wow.
It is completely average.
Actually, you're the highest one then here.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which is saying something. It's completely average for me. It is not something I'm going to write home about.
No.
It's not something I'm going to say people, because a lot of work, a lot of love went into it, and obviously, especially with Chadwick Boseman and getting his final performance as a character who arguably was a great character in his own right.
Yeah.
I know there was talk of a T'Challa Star-Lord series even that they loved him so much as
he was the best in this. He was the highlight of this entire season.
I wouldn't even be surprised if some of these turn into actual shows. Like I could see them doing a Captain Carter animated show.
I wouldn't be surprised if she shows up live action.
That would be great.
Yeah.
So for me, I think 2.5 is right where I'm at. I think it's going to sour at some point.
Yeah.
It depends on what they do with it. If they make reference to this in the main MCU, awesome. Cool. I'm down. Like, give it to me. But if this is just what it is...
Well, and that's the problem. To me, it seemed like a placeholder between Loki and Hawkeye.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm going to stick with the 2.5. And so that's going to wrap us up with Marvel's What If. Now, Fan Feedback Friday.
Aha.
Brought to you by Halloween. Because
Yes.
it is that time of the year. It is the Halloween themed kind of... I'm gonna try and do some Halloween themed Fan Feedback Fridays for you guys. Also, full disclosure, I was so busy at work that I panicked and really tried to get this out as soon as I could. So the question, which I thought was actually a lot of fun. Fan Feedback Friday this week was worst superhero costume ever, and some of these are rough.
Wow. I'm looking at some of these. Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to go down the list. I know a lot of these are from Rob's comic book class. So
which, by the way, we listened to the podcast in the show, and we heard Fan Feedback Friday from last week. So
awesome.
So
thank you guys. That's a blast. It's great to hear. It's even funnier if you were at the Brewster High School football game. You saw me there, and you had no idea. But so I'm going to go down the list. I'm not going to say from the comic book class for each one because then we'll be here forever. All right, we got Nicolas Cage Superman. For those of you guys who, and that was a deep cut, deep cut. For those of you guys who aren't aware, Nicolas Cage was actually cast as Superman in the early '90s for a project called Superman Lives or Superman Reborn.
Superman Lives,
and they gave
Tim Burton directed
the worst Superman costume. He had the full mullet. He had it was like a light up kind of suit. It was
electrified lightning going through it.
The Superman suit has gone through so many iterations, and usually 99% of the time they're fantastic.
Yeah.
Christopher Reeves is iconic in his suit. Brandon Routh in the Kingdom Come suit. We had Tyler Hoechlin rocking two different Superman suits. The Henry Cavill suit. I'll take it or leave it. I thoroughly enjoy it. But that's a solid reference. The Phantom with Billy Zane.
Yes. One of my students came up with that one. And
Tights and Frog Eye.
Yeah,
oh
it's
my
so
God.
bad.
Love it. Batman and Robin with the bat nipples. Yep. That's no. First Amazing Spider-Man suit with Andrew Garfield. I will argue that one.
I knew you were going to.
That one.
As soon as someone said that to me, I'm like, oh boy.
It is. I will concede it is not the best Spider-Man suit, but I still really enjoy it because it still has that homemade-ish kind of look to it, and there's just something about the gritty of it with Spider-Man for a character that I can't fix it. I have no money or time to fix this suit.
That's that same feeling I remember seeing Tom Holland with his first episode. He's like, what is this, a onesie?
Yeah. I do. For the Amazing Spider-Man suit, the only thing that irked me about it were the eyes. The sun, but it makes sense. He literally took a pair of sunglasses because that's what he had and put them in the mask.
Oh, Peter.
Yeah. Let's see. But it does say was fixed in the second film. I will argue that the Amazing Spider-Man 2 suit is still my favorite on-screen Spider-Man suit. It is, because he has the physique that matches it, and just for me, the eyes kill it way better than Tobey Maguire's. In my humble opinion. Not that I don't like that suit. This is great. Captain America's suit. Various versions, which include the hood and the ears from the 1990 and the War Bond suit. So, for those of you guys who don't know, in the 90s, Captain America had 2 made-for-TV movies, and for some reason, they decided to give him his mask, quote-unquote, with rubber ears.
With
pink
white man color ears, like to match the actor. Who do you know who the actor is?
Not off the top of my head.
J.D. Salinger's
Yes,
son.
that's right. And it is horrific. The War Bond suit that he wears in the first Avenger, I get, but that's the point. It's supposed to
be cheesy.
Yeah, it's supposed to be cheesy,
and it is.
But you know, they still pull it off. And Chris, you know, so that's solid. Black Widow. It is essentially a black skin tight suit that plays into the male gaze.
I was very impressed with that comment.
I will not ever argue that. Unfortunately, female comic books were written for young boys. Yeah. They always were for a long time. You know, when they first came out in the early 1930s, you know, it was very. It got terrible in the 80s and 90s. Just the way
the
females,
voluptuousness of it, and the curves and the hips,
you know,
they really accentuated.
Wonder Woman's a great example.
Yeah.
Who's the? It's gonna drive me crazy. Big Barda, and then there's one other I forget. It's gonna drive me crazy. Maxima. That's it. Like very voluptuous, very small waisted. Like this is what a woman should look like. This is what men want.
Barbie-esque.
But jacked Barbies.
Yeah.
Like misproportionate Barbies. Power Rangers. Solid. Love it. I'm going to fight this kid.
All right.
I'm going to fight this kid, Rob. Adam West Batman. How dare that child? I get it. I really do get it. Like, it is, especially nowadays where we have such iconic Batsuits. You know, I'm not a big fan of the Christian Bale Batsuit, but it is great. You know, Ben Affleck's Batsuit is my favorite. Even his tactical one that he uses in Justice League. So that is a slap in the face.
Watch out, a cop is after me.
Japanese Spider-Man, solid choice. Shark Boy from Shark Boy and Lava Girl. Yep. Cisco as Mecha Vibe. Ooh. So Vibe, for those of you guys who don't know, Cisco Ramon's been in The Flash since season 1, and he's a fan favorite character, and I thoroughly love him, and I do enjoy him as a character. But Vibe in the comics is every Latin American stereotype you could possibly throw at a wall and hope to stick. I hate Mecha Vibe, though. I hate it.
I don't think I even... Oh, wait. I saw him become Vibe. What is Mecha Vibe? I don't
Cisco
think I know this.
gave up his powers because he didn't want to be a metahuman anymore. So he then...
Did he do this for what's her name?
I think that was a concept, but I don't remember.
I forget the girlfriend's name.
Yeah, but Camilla?
Is that who it is?
I think so. But he gave up his powers, and then he decided, I'm going to make a robot sort of suit type thing. Yeah. And now he's Mecha Vibe.
Is he still?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
But he's not even on the show. He's not a series regular anymore.
Really? Okay.
Which is a shame because like the Flash has actually done really well with suits. Like some of the like Kid Flash, they actually managed to pull off Reverse Flash. Some of Barry's suits have been hit or miss. I hate when they made his helmet his mask a helmet type thing. But now, did you know that they made it so his mask is nanotech?
Oh, really?
Because one of my biggest gripes about the Flash was basically they would cut when he was playing with his mask, either taking it off or putting it on. They'd cut to a different shot where it was off.
Well, that's the old Batman issue too. You know, with him having with Michael Keaton's Batman, where they have the eye makeup,
and then he just rips it off too, and you can see the eye makeup's gone.
Yeah.
It's jarring. Hulk's purple shorts. I do love how they made fun of it in the Incredible Hulk.
Yes.
Shaq has steel. This one I'm not really too sure what this means. Oh, Catwoman. There we go. Okay. I'm gonna assume the Halle Berry Catwoman.
Oh, that one's bad.
Oh, we had some good ones. This was a fun one, and I was a little afraid that we were gonna not get the response.
Yeah,
But
no, it
that
was good. It was a
solid.
good question.
So that's going to wrap us up for tonight. If you guys want to hear more of our content, you can find our website, themisfitfaction.com. You can also find us on Facebook, the Multiverse Fan Cast or the Misfit Faction. There you'll find links to all of our podcasts. And if you want to participate in Fan Feedback Friday, that's the place to do it. You can also find us on Instagram at the Misfit Faction. You can find us on YouTube, the Misfit Faction Media Network, and on Twitter at Misfit Faction. Again, all of our most recent shows are automatically updated. Every Monday morning, you'll get a brand new episode from us. Eventually, we're going to start throwing in some bonus episodes, maybe just quick reviews. But as of right now, every Monday at around 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, you'll find a brand new episode on your newsfeed. As long as you like and subscribe, every download is a big help for us, guys. So if you guys are listening to the show and enjoying the show, please just hit that download button, leave a like, leave a review. It makes our show more visible to other people and puts us at the top of some of those charts. We have been on iTunes top 10 podcast charts, but it's been a while. So we would really enjoy getting back up there and spreading our word and kind of helping the show grow and build. And you guys are all a big part of it, and we want to say thank you because our numbers have been great and fantastic, especially with all the saturation of other podcasts and reviewing systems kind of doing a lot of the stuff that we're doing, because we found ourselves at a point where there was no new content coming out. So we were doing a lot of niche stuff, like a lot of old retro reviews and a lot of character studies. So it's hard.
I think it was a pandemic response mostly. Yeah.
Mostly. And it was hard when all the new content came out because we got lost in the shuffle with some of those bigger shows. So for those of you guys who have still been listening and leaving so many responses, it's been great. So that's going to wrap us up. We're going to be back next week talking about Comic-Con and whatever kind of gets out of Comic-Con and maybe some of
what we're looking forward to, what it looks like and where it's going.
And I think that wraps us up. As always, I'm Paul.
And I am Ronnie.
And I'm Rob.
And we will be back in a flash.
Time, space, reality. It's more than a linear path.
I'm going to turn off your mic.
It's a smorgasbord.